Stop calming your toddler this way. It's training their brain to panic. There's a specific way most parents try to calm their crying toddler that feels loving, feels instinctive, and feels like the right thing to do. But neuroscience shows it can actually teach the developing brain that emotions are dangerous, that distress requires immediate rescue, and that the child cannot trust their own capacity to recover. And because this happens during the years when the stress response system is still forming, the pattern gets wired and deeper than most parents realize. If that concerns you, stay with me. This isn't about blaming you. This is about understanding what your child's brain is actually learning from the way we respond to their tears, and how small shifts in your approach can build emotional resilience instead of accidentally undermining it. You love your child. You're trying to help. Everything you're doing comes from care. But the toddler brain interprets comfort differently than we assume. And when we understand that difference, we can respond in ways that actually support long-term emotional health rather than creating patterns we'll struggle with later. The reason these early years matter so much is because your child's nervous system is actively learning how to interpret and respond to stress right now. The brain pathways that determine whether someone feels safe or threatened, whether they can self-soothe or need constant external regulation, whether they trust their emotions or fear them. These pathways are being formed through thousands of small interactions before age 3. Research in developmental neuroscience shows that the neural circuits responsible for emotional regulation are shaped primarily by repeated experiences with caregivers during moments of distress. Your child's brain is watching how you respond when they're upset. It's learning whether big feelings are temporary and manageable, or whether they're emergencies that require someone else to fix immediately. And whichever message gets reinforced most often becomes the foundation for how that child will relate to their emotions for years to come. This doesn't mean you need to be perfect. It means you need to understand what the developing brain actually needs during distress, which is often different from what feels most loving to us as adults. The first pattern that neuroscience flags as potentially harmful is responding to your toddler's distress by becoming distressed yourself. This looks like the moment your child starts crying. You immediately match their intensity. Your voice goes up, your face shows worry or alarm. Your body language becomes urgent. You might say things like, "Oh no, what happened? Are you hurt? What's wrong?" in a tone that mirrors their panic. You scoop them up quickly with anxious energy. Parents do this because it feels empathetic. It feels like you're showing your child that you take their feelings seriously. It feels like connection, and in the moment, it often does make the child reach for you, which reinforces the behavior because it looks like it's working. But here's what developmental psychology finds. When you respond to your child's distress with your own heightened emotional state, their brain interprets your reaction as confirmation that the situation is genuinely dangerous. Toddlers are constantly scanning their caregiver's nervous system for safety cues. This happens below conscious awareness through a process called neuroception. When the person they depend on for survival shows signs of threat or fear, the child's amygdala, the brain's alarm center, escalates rather than calms. The message their nervous system receives is not "you're safe and I'm here to help," but rather, "something is very wrong and even the adult is scared." Over time, this teaches the brain that emotional distress is a crisis. The child learns that feelings require urgent intervention from someone else. Their baseline anxiety increases because their nervous system never gets the experience of having big feelings while the adult remains calm and grounded. Research shows that children whose caregivers consistently respond with regulated presence develop stronger self-soothing capacity and lower reactivity than children whose caregivers match their emotional intensity. What to do instead is regulate yourself before you respond. When your toddler cries, take one slow breath. Notice your own nervous system, then respond with calm energy. Lower your voice instead of raising it. Soften your facial expression. Move toward them with intention, but not panic. You can still be fast. You can still be caring. But your body language is saying, "I've got this. You're safe. This feeling will pass," instead of "something's wrong and I'm worried too." Your calm nervous system becomes the anchor their developing brain can use to learn that emotions, even big ones, are manageable. The second pattern involves what we do during the crying itself. Most parents immediately start talking. We ask questions. We offer explanations. We try to problem solve. Why are you upset? Did someone take your toy? Are you hungry? Do you want to go outside? Let me help you. Tell me what you need. This feels like good parenting. It feels like communication. It feels productive. But neuroscience explains that during emotional overwhelm, the thinking part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, is temporarily offline. Your toddler is operating from their limbic system, the emotional brain. They literally cannot process complex language or reasoning in that state. When we talk a lot during peak distress, we're asking the brain to do two difficult things at once: manage overwhelming emotion and process verbal information. This actually prolongs the meltdown because the child system cannot complete the emotional cycle, while also trying to make sense of your words. Developmental psychology finds that children who are given quiet space to feel during peak emotion tend to move through distress faster and with less residual upset than children who are talked to. Throughout the experience, the long-term effect is a child who becomes dependent on external narration to understand their feelings. They learn that emotions must be immediately explained, solved, or reasoned away rather than simply felt and released. This can create difficulty with emotional awareness later, because the child never develops the neural pathways for internal processing. They're always looking outside themselves for someone to tell them what they're feeling and what to do about it. What to do instead is offer silent or nearly silent presence during the peak of the crying. Sit near them. You can place a gentle hand on their back if they want touch, but resist the urge to talk. Let their nervous system discharge the emotion without adding the cognitive task of language processing. After they've calmed, after the intensity has passed, that's when you can talk about what happened. You can say something simple like you were really upset about leaving the park, and see if they want to share more. The reflection happens after the storm, not during it. This teaches the brain that feelings can be experienced fully, without needing someone else to narrate or fix them in real time. The third pattern is one of the most common and feels the most loving, which is why it's so important to understand. This is stopping the crying as quickly as possible through distraction or immediate comfort. The moment tears start, we offer a toy, turn on a screen, get a snack, suggest a new activity, or swoop in with physical comfort before the child has even fully expressed what they're feeling. We say, look at this, or do you want to play with this instead, or here, let me hold you and we'll feel better. Parents do this because we cannot bear to see our children in distress. Every instinct tells us to make the pain stop. We think we're being kind, we think we're protecting them from suffering. But research in emotional development shows that when we interrupt the emotional process before it completes, we prevent the nervous system from learning how to move through distress and return to baseline naturally. Emotions have a natural arc. They rise, peak, and fall. When we cut that arc short through distraction, the stress hormones that were released don't get fully processed. The feeling doesn't complete. It gets pushed down, and the brain learns that feelings are something to avoid rather than something to experience and release. Neuroscience finds that emotional resilience develops specifically through repeated experiences of feeling something difficult and then naturally recovering. When we rescue our children from this process every time, we accidentally prevent the neural pathways associated with emotional regulation from strengthening. The brain never gets to practice the full cycle, so it never builds confidence in its own ability to handle discomfort. The hidden long-term effect is a child who becomes uncomfortable with any negative emotion. They expect immediate relief from any distress. They may develop anxiety around feelings themselves because they've learned that emotions are dangerous things that must be escaped rather than normal experiences that pass on their own. This can show up later as difficulty sitting with frustration, low tolerance for disappointment, or an inability to self-soothe because the brain never learned that skill. During the critical window when it was supposed to develop, what to do instead is allow some time for feeling before you offer comfort or solutions. You don't abandon them, you stay nearby, but you give them a few minutes to cry without immediately trying to stop it. You might say something very simple like, "You're sad right now," and then you wait. You let their nervous system do what it's designed to do, which is feel the emotion, discharge it, and naturally return to calm. After a few minutes, if they're still very distressed, then you offer connection or a gentle transition, but you give the brain the experience it needs, which is feeling something hard and surviving it, over and over, until that becomes the neural pattern. Until the brain learns deeply that feelings are temporary, that the child has the capacity to move through them, and that distress doesn't require immediate external rescue. The fourth pattern is more subtle but incredibly important. This is asking the child to stop crying or to calm down. This shows up in phrases like, "You're okay," "Don't cry," or "Try to calm down," or "Big kids don't cry," or even softer versions like, "Can you take a deep breath for me?" Parents say these things with love. We're trying to help the child regulate. We think we're teaching them emotional control, but developmental psychology shows that asking a toddler to stop crying sends the message that their emotions are wrong, unacceptable, or too much. The child's brain interprets this as my feelings are bad rather than my feelings are temporary. This is especially problematic because toddlers do not yet have the brain development required to control their emotions through willpower. The prefrontal cortex structures needed for that kind of regulation won't be fully online for many more years, so when we ask them to stop crying, we're asking them to do something they're neurologically incapable of doing, which creates shame and confusion. Research shows that children who are regularly asked to suppress their emotions don't cry less over time. They actually tend to have more intense outbursts because the feelings don't disappear, they accumulate, and because the child hasn't been given permission to express emotions in healthy ways. Those emotions eventually erupt in bigger, more dysregulated episodes. The long-term effect is a child who learns to hide feelings, who experiences shame around normal emotional experiences, who may become disconnected from their own internal signals, or who develops the belief that their authentic self is too much for others to handle. This can create difficulties with emotional intimacy, self-awareness, and mental health later in life. What to do instead is give explicit permission to feel. When your toddler is crying, say something like "It's okay to cry" or "I'm right here while you're sad." You're not agreeing that the situation is catastrophic. You're validating that the emotion itself is acceptable and safe to express. You're teaching the child that feelings are information, not emergencies, that they can be felt, experienced, and released without judgment or shame. This single language shift can fundamentally change how a child relates to their emotional life. Here's what actually builds emotional regulation in the developing brain. It's not protecting children from all distress. It's not immediately fixing every uncomfortable feeling. It's providing calm, consistent presence while the child experiences the full cycle of emotion. It's staying regulated yourself so their nervous system can borrow your calm. It's allowing feelings to exist without rushing in to change them. And it's doing this again and again and again until the neural pathways for self-soothing, emotional awareness, and distress tolerance become strong and automatic. This doesn't happen from one perfect response. It happens from the accumulation of hundreds of small moments where the child's brain learns that feelings are safe, temporary, and manageable, where they experience having an emotion and coming through it with a calm adult nearby, where their nervous system practices activation and recovery until that becomes the default pattern. You will not do this perfectly. You will match their panic. Sometimes you will talk too much during meltdowns. You will distract to stop crying. You will ask them to calm down. Every parent does. What matters is the overall pattern, not individual moments. What matters is that you understand what the developing brain needs and that you move in that direction more often than not. Your child's brain is learning every day whether emotions are dangerous or manageable, whether they can trust themselves or need constant rescue, whether feelings are shameful or simply part of being human. You have the opportunity right now, during these critical years, to shape that learning in ways that will support them for the rest of their life. Stay calm when they cannot. Give them space to feel. Validate their emotions without trying to fix them immediately. Trust that their nervous system knows how to process and release distress when given the chance. Your steady presence teaches more than any words ever could. If this information helps you understand your child's brain better, consider sharing it with another parent who might need it. And stay here for more calm, science-based guidance on raising emotionally healthy children.